Today I am working on my Schumacher battery charger, automobile battery charger. I plugged it in the other day to charge up a battery and nothing happened. This whole display did not light up. And so the first thing I did is call the company, see if they had some kind of repair option. They told me that the charger is obsolete. I believe it's about 3 years old. And then I proceeded to ask them about parts, and they gave me the website address where I could look up the part. Then I looked on there and they're either out of stock on parts or they don't carry them anymore. So I took apart this unit to see if I could figure out what's wrong, and perhaps I could buy the part I needed elsewhere. The first thing I did is I tested the voltage. Today I am working on my Schumacher automobile battery charger. Plugged it in the other day to charge a battery, didn't get anything. Display, no output, nothing. So I opened it up, took a quick look around, did a visual on the circuit board. The capacitors look okay, they're flat. And I didn't see a fuse, a user replaceable fuse anywhere. So then I got online and looked at some YouTube videos, and from a video it looks like this guy here is a fuse. I don't know if you can see it right there. And so I tested that for continuity. That was fine. The next thing I did is I traced where the power comes in to the board, which is here, negative, and here, positive. And I am getting full 110 voltage AC at those 2 points. Another thing I tested quickly was this resettable circuit breaker. And this showed continuity, so that's good. The fuse is good. And I didn't see anything else that really caught my attention, no burnt spots or anything. And from looking at the fan wasn't working, nothing's working. And so looking at the fan, it's 12 volts, DC 12 volts. So what happens is the transformer transforms the 110 coming in on this side, and then the output comes into these diodes. These two, that's a diode, that's a diode. And what the diode will do is it'll convert AC to DC. And there are two diodes. You could just use one diode, and then it would use half of the sine wave to power, but I guess they wanted twice the power. When you're looking at AC, a typical AC wave will look like this. And when you put a diode, it's just going to use the top portion of that. So every bump up, it uses it. And then you're wasting this bottom part here. So I think what they've done is they put two diodes, and then they're able to use this and this. And they can effectively double the amperage that you need. And if you look at the front, they have that 100 amp boost. So that's what I'm thinking they're doing there. Anyway, so the relays look good. Everything looks good. So what I decided to do was maybe to buy me some diodes. So I looked at this number here, and I couldn't find anything that matches that. And I looked on the Schumacher store, and they are out of stock on diodes. So I did a little bit of searching on diodes. Found this guy. This is the highest rated diode that I could find, the 75 amps. I did find a 50 amp also. I did not find 100. I would have taken 100 if I could find it. And you'll see here that it has that 100 amp boost. So I'm thinking, I don't use that, but I'm hoping that the 75 amp one will work. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these. These are crimped on. So what I'll do is I'll cut this, and then I will press these out. If you look at the new diode, you can see how it has those little ribs on there. Those actually get pressed into this plate. And so what I'm going to do is use some sockets. And I don't care about these old ones, so I'll just get a socket. Let me show you what I'm doing here. So I'll get a socket and I'll put it over this diode so that I can push it out. And then when I press the new ones in, I'll just get another socket with this clamp and just press it back in. Then I'll reattach the little leads there, bend them, reattach them here. And I guess they don't want you soldering them. I don't know. I figured they would have soldered them, so I'm going to, I don't know, I'll probably mess with that a little bit and see if I can maybe open it up and reuse it. If not, I'll have to figure something else out to attach these wires. So it's kind of a long shot. I mean, this board is no longer available, and so I can't replace that. And I don't know how much it would cost anyway. The transformer, it was showing me voltage on the output side, so I believe it's good. But the bottom line is, if this replacing these diodes doesn't work, then I'm pretty much done unless I start troubleshooting the actual components on this board or the transformer itself. So at this point, I took off these two. There's the little sleeves there that were crimped to hold down the diode. And real quickly what I did is I labeled this the bottom, this one the top. I don't think it matters, but I want to do that anyway. And so I mentioned earlier that I measured the output voltage of this transformer, and it was 42.4 volts. So that kind of tells me that power is going into this transformer and it's coming out, and then it's hitting these diodes and it's not making it past that. So then I tested the diodes with my tester, and they both tested bad. So I think these diodes are bad. And like I said, I'm going to replace them. I'm going to press them out and press the new ones in. And I don't know if I'm going to use these little sleeves or just solder it on. But we'll see how that goes. So these diodes are pretty easy to take out. So I'm using this socket here to give it clearance, and what I'm going to do is just take this little clamp and this is very difficult to show you. I hope you guys can see it, but you get the idea. And they come out pretty easily. Let me see here. Okay. So now, I heard it. Did you hear that little pop? So that's it. Let me use this a little bit. Let's see if we can. Yeah, that came out a little sideways, but no problem. And I don't care about damaging these because they're bad, but at the same time, you know, I want to do things the right way. So now, yeah, there you go. That is it. So it comes out. Here's the other diode, and again, I tested them and they're bad. So now what I will do is I'll get the new ones, put it in here, and this I really want to make sure I do it right. So I seat it with my hand, and I have another socket that I'll use to push this in. And so since I want to protect this diode, I'm going to put this socket that I found the right one that fits right over there. So now I'm not touching any of the insulator or anything. And now I will see if I can press this guy in. It don't take a lot of force. I'm just doing this by hand. You kind of have to, they go in kind of sideways, so I'm trying to push it in evenly. So let's see if we can get this. And I probably could hammer them on. I just don't want to take the board out. And I definitely don't want to damage these. And so I think by doing this, I'm going to be all right. Let's see. So I got this partially in. You can see it's almost seated. So what I think I'm going to do is take a bigger socket that goes over this whole flange. And that way for sure I'm not running into the lip of that diode. And then I will try and press this in a little bit. Use my pliers here to get a little more pressure. And I don't know how critical it is to get, everything flat. I think that what happens is the output of the diode goes into this plate, and then it goes into the circuit breaker and so on, and I believe it powers the board also. So, just want to get this a little flatter. Keeps trying to walk on me a little bit, but I guess I could flip that clamp a little bit, but I'm not going to do that. There we go. I think we got it there. I think as long as it's secure in that. There we go. So I think we're good there. It's a little high on this side. Let me try and get that. Okay, so I did get this in. It's a little bit scarred from the clamp moving around, but I think it'll be good. Nice and flush. No damage to the insulator. And so that is it. This really worked real good because in addition to giving me the room to push this in, it was long enough that I could just move this little wire out of the way and put my clamp on there. So now I will do the second diode. And I did test these diodes to make sure that they are good. I'll test them again once I put them in now to make sure. So again, what I do is I just kind of seat it a little bit, wiggle it around, make sure, because it's kind of, it is like a little knurled edge. You want to make sure that you kind of seat it with your hands, right? With your, that way you know that they're lined up, kind of like that way. And so I'm going to try this one right away. Oh, I do have a problem here. So this is in the way, and this is unplugged, by the way, so you'll know that that's not an issue. Let's see if I can get away with this. If not, I will. Yeah, so that's fine. So you'll see how that sits right on there like that. Let me try this the other way. I'm curious. If I do it this way, it'll work, but I want to make sure that it goes inside the socket. Okay, let's try this. Let me see if I can zoom. No, I guess I can't zoom this. So this is a little out on the bottom, so I'm just gonna kind of go around the edges and see. Oh, I'm back to doing this again. Whereas I said I was gonna do it the other way, so maybe I won't mark it up as much. Let's see. Just by habit, I'm doing that, right? But let's see. Man, I'm gonna have to put something inside of the center of that socket because it's. Let's see here. Doesn't take much, but I'm gonna go back to my other way, even though it scratches it up a little bit. It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters a whole lot, but I can control it a lot better if I put that other side on there for obvious reasons. See, and that wire, it's just hanging right here, so just the tip of it, so it's no biggie. So I'm just kind of going around this edge, trying to get that. There's probably a better way. I thought about maybe using vice grips, but I think this will work. So I need to move this wire a little bit so I can get to that end. So now I can get back here and push this part that's protruding a little bit. I'm just kind of trying to press it all around. Make it uniform. I guess I could have, if I had a bigger clamp, I could have used a socket on that end. Yeah, this thing's kind of wobbling. Let me see if I can put it right in the middle and maybe get it. I'm going to use these pliers a little bit because it does need a little bit of torque there. Just a little bit more, I think I'm done. I think that is good. And there it is. Looks good. So now I will test these diodes again, make sure I didn't mess them up. You can just touch the frame and the wire. Okay. That works. The way diodes work is the current only goes one way, so you'll get 0 reading, and then the other way you'll get a reading. If I can connect this right. There you go. I'm gonna do this one. That has a reading. That does not. Okay, so these diodes are good. I didn't mess them up. That's good. So now I'm gonna crimp these. Probably the reason they don't want to solder it is because you have this big wire, stranded wire going to the solid, and it's real messy to solder it. So what I'm gonna do is, let's start with the bottom one first, because bottom. And the way I saw they had it was they kind of ran this down the center of it. Then I'm gonna use some crimpers, see if I can crimp this little guy over that. Okay, so I tried to put these on, and I don't think they're gonna work. They're just too mangled. I can't get them to their original shape. And so what I decided to do was take some of these. What do I got here? I have some of these. Storehouse, blah, 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 receptacle, connector, 12 to 10 AWG. So I basically, this is what it looks like. So I basically just took a screwdriver and pushed from the bottom end to the big end, and I'm able to take the whole inside out. Then what I'll do is I'll just cut this off, and it opens up nicely for me too, by the way. So now I had a little sleeve. So I think I'm gonna use these. Gotta open them up just a little bit, I think. But I think that'll work for me. See if I can open these up a little bit. This is the way I took the old ones off, those brass ones. Just by holding one end, and you can kind of expand them. So then here what I'll do is put this on. And again, I'm working on the bottom one just because that one's, it's harder to get to, right? If I do the top one, then the bottom one, it'll be in the way of the bottom one. So I'm going to do that, run this right down the center, like the original one was, till it stops. Then I'll get my crimpers. Adjust this. This stuff is definitely, this is definitely easier to crimp. I'm not sure this is going to work. I think I'm going to need something more. Let's see though. Let's see if I can get this. It'll crimp down on it when I do it. Yeah, looks pretty good. Let's see if I can get this tighter. I'm going to do the top too. Yeah, I think it'll work. And the way they originally were, they were bent down. Kind of down like this and out of the way. Now we'll do this other one. The same way. And since I'm right-handed, I twist the wire to the right, so I need to open this. And once you get this put together, these wires aren't going to be moved at all, so I don't think that there's any issue with what I have going on here. Okay, again, push it in till it stops. Position this. Crimp it in place. Let's see if I can get this. I think that's good. This was like this. Well, here's the moment of truth. I'm not going to put this together yet. Let's see if I get a display. Let me check everything real quick. I loosened this, didn't I? Let me tighten this up again. Okay. And this just slots in there. Ooh, I see a problem right there. There you go. There you go. Well, let's see. And that was not it. And here we have the sweet smell of success. So what I did before I put the case back on, I plugged it in and nothing happened. So I was kind of bummed about that. So then what I did, I go, well, maybe it has to be hooked up to a battery. So then I put the top of the case back on, screwed it in, brought it outside, plugged it in to a battery. I guess it needs a load. And I've got some electronics here. I have the display working and everything, so I think that's a success. So anybody who has a battery charger, and from what I gather, looking at the various YouTube videos, the diodes are the ones that normally go out. What happens is, if a battery's real low, it'll blow those diodes. Too much current going through there. So I'm going to try this, see how this charges a couple of my batteries. I'm somewhat concerned about the value of those diodes. It was 75 amps instead of 100, but again, I don't use this 100 boost, so I think I'll be okay. I guess time will tell. And there's two of them, so then technically, you know, I'm thinking you take the 100, split it by 2, that's 50. Probably could have used a 50 amp diode. That's what I'm thinking, but I don't know. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm just a DIY guy. So there you have it, guys. Give it a go. Don't throw away your charger. You know, at least do the little preliminary tests that I did. And then those diodes were like $7 a piece on Amazon. So that's $14. You know, these chargers go for $80 and up. And I really hate to throw away something, you know, if I can fix it. So there you go. Good luck. I want to cover a couple of things. As I mentioned previously, a diode allows current to go one way, but not the other. So it'll travel from the anode to the cathode. And so that is pretty important. I looked on the Schumacher website, and their diode, they had a diode on there that was a 75 amp. And you see where the anode is on the lead. And that means the cathode's on the button, I'll call it. And so the current comes into that wire from the transformer, and then it transfers to that plate I showed you previously through a contact with that plate. So that is important. You need to make sure that it's anode on lead. And so this is the one that I bought. I looked at some other ones, but you look here, you see where it says cathode case. That's what you want. The anode, this is the wire, cathode is on the case. So this is the one to purchase, and it's cheaper than the one that has the opposite. Been about an hour since I hooked this up to the battery. Looks to be working well. You see there where it's charging, it's on the right side, upper left. The selection buttons work fine. Everything's looking good.
So I think this is a success.